Welcome back, my friends. As you all probably know by now, electric cars are all the rage. I suppose that it started with Tesla and the culture of personality of Elon Musk. But there is another thing that made Elon Musk famous. And that is layoffs. Today, we learn that General Motors is cutting hundreds of salaried positions. It is basically following the lead set by other major companies. That includes competitors like Ford and Stellantis. And a wealth of technology companies like Meta, Google, and Amazon. And retail companies like Bed Bath & Beyond. And media companies like Disney, Netflix, and AMC. Lots of companies are downsizing headcounts to preserve cash and boost profits. The cuts at General Motors affect about 500 positions. What does this mean for the future of the car industry? And what does this mean for the future of the United States? But before we get into all of that, please press the like button and leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you are notified of upcoming videos. General Motors is cutting hundreds of salaried positions. Wall Street is demanding that most companies downsize headcounts to preserve cash and boost profits. The cuts affect about 500 positions. The job cuts will be across various functions of the company, said a GM spokesperson. The timing of the cuts is odd, said the Detroit News. The layoffs come just a month after GM CEO Mary Barra and CFO Paul Jacobson told investors that the company was not planning any layoffs. The company's goal of $2 billion in cost savings over the next 2 years, which we'll find by reducing corporate expenses, overhead, and complexity in all our products, said GM Chief People Officer Arden Hoffman. Hoffman said the cuts are a result of performance evaluations. The cuts would impact a small number of global executives and classified employees, Hoffman continued. Following our most recent performance calibration, said Hoffman. The cuts started Tuesday and will continue based on location. The company reiterated in an emailed statement that the cuts are a result of performance. The layoffs will assist in managing the attrition curve as part of our overall structural costs reduction effort, Hoffman also noted. At the end of last year, GM employed 167,000 employees worldwide. That includes about 86,000 hourly workers and 81,000 salaried employees. The 500 job cuts comprise less than 1% of GM's salaried workforce. The company expected to reduce employee headcount through attrition rather than layoffs, said Hoffman. Until recently, the automotive industry was largely unaffected by job cuts. Layoffs was a word that was typically used in connection with the technology sector in recent quarters. Ford Motor earlier this month confirmed it would cut 3,800 jobs in Europe over the next 3 years. Ford CEO Jim Farley stressed the need to adopt a leaner structure. Largely because Ford is shifting its focus to electric vehicle production. Rivian Automotive also made salaried cuts. Stellantis said it shut down a car factory in Illinois. But not long ago, we heard reports from General Motors that it expects its new electric vehicle profits bigger and sooner. GM expects electric vehicle profits to be in line with cars and trucks with internal combustion engines by 2025. This expectation is years ahead of the previously announced schedule. Not to mention far ahead of what many industry observers thought was possible. GM CEO Mary Barra made particular note of the significant increase in profits factors. These earlier and bigger profits were made possible in part by federal incentives. Particularly, the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The new law includes money back for companies that produce electric vehicles in North America. It also incentivizes consumers and fleet customers to purchase the vehicles. Near-term profitability plans for General Motors electric vehicles comes as something of a surprise to Wall Street analysts. The electric vehicle business has been a challenge for every car maker, especially legacy automakers. This positive outlook for the economy and business paints a bright future for General Motors. Surprisingly, it comes during a period of rising interest rates, surging inflation, and fears of an impending recession. These macroeconomic factors were expected to be focus points for Wall Street analysts during the presentation in New York. General Motors is clearly bullish on its profits and plans for electric vehicles. This is mostly because of technological investments that it has made. Most importantly, a new vehicle platform called Ultium. General Motors and LG Energy Solution are also building domestic plants through a joint venture called Ultium Cells LLC. The joint venture building electric vehicle battery plants in 3 U.S. states: Ohio, Tennessee, and Michigan. Plans call for completion by the end of 2024. If all plants are completed, the joint venture would be the U.S. leader in domestic cell production. And a fourth U.S. cell plant is planned but not yet scheduled. GM has reassured shareholders that it has secured binding commitments for all the battery raw material it needs. This rollout plan is General Motors' second chance at trying to become the mass market leader in the electric vehicle market. Full-scale production volumes will take about 2 years. The $30,000 entry price of the Equinox EV compares to $66,000 for the Tesla Model Y. And it compares to $35,300 for gas-powered crossover vehicles in the same category. An electric Equinox is important to GM because it is a high-volume model in the most popular segment in the industry, said executive analyst Michelle Krebs. We know from our studies that price of EVs is the number one obstacle to EV adoption, with range and charging infrastructure falling, continued Krebs. Affordable EVs are critical to proliferating EVs, Krebs also noted. General Motors' first electric vehicle was the Chevy Bolt. The Chevy Bolt was first introduced to the market in December of 2016. But sales volumes of the Chevy Bolt never exceeded 25,000. That is a long way from mainstream sales volumes like the numbers achieved by the gas-powered Equinox. The gas-powered Chevy Equinox sells hundreds of thousands of units every year. The Bolt has seen mild success but was never really intended as a high-volume EV model, said Paul Wattie, analyst at Auto Pacific. The funky design and market positioning require a bit of a unique buyer, Wattie continued. The Equinox EV will enter a much larger market than the smaller Bolt models. The crossover vehicle market is much larger than the small car market in the US. General Motors has created its Ultium electric vehicle platform on which all of its crossover vehicle product line will be based until at least 2030. The driving range of the Equinox EV will be 250 miles to 300 miles, depending on the battery size. It will be a front-wheel drive vehicle with 210 horsepower and 242 foot-pounds of torque, said Barra's CEO in a statement. All-wheel drive models will achieve 290 horsepower and 346 foot-pounds of torque, continued Barra. The price Chevy Blazer EV starts at $45,000 and is rated at 557 horsepower and 648 pounds-foot of torque. This announcement comes as the average price of a new car purchase in the United States has now reached $48,000. That is up from $39,000 just 2 years ago. The price of new cars and trucks rose % in 2022, according to a report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Car prices have skyrocketed in the last 2 years. The pandemic led to many imbalances. There are a number of reasons why the pandemic increased car prices. The automotive supply chain crisis is a perfect example of the snowball effect. COVID-19 has set off a chain reaction of factors. This included a global shortages of toilet paper, shortages of video game consoles, and shortages of the microchips used to make everything from robot vacuums to cars. During the pandemic, millions of people around the world are starting to work and study from home. And to make remote working or learning possible, the world suddenly needs more computers. To make matters worse, several microchip production facilities around the world have been hit by disasters, such as severe weather and fires. And the Russian-Ukrainian war continues to affect the global supply chain. Even now that the pandemic has subsided, an inventory shortage continues to shackle new vehicle sales. 980,400 new cars were sold in the United States in August. That is a 2.6% decrease from this time last year. The Federal Reserve started a series of steep interest rate hikes earlier this year because of high inflation. So far as yet to have a sizable impact on the auto industry. In the United States, people love a variety of different vehicles. This includes sport utility vehicles, luxury sedans, pickup trucks, and crossover vehicles. But cars are no longer cheap. One of the main factors is that cars are now more technologically sophisticated. But that is not the only reason. Car manufacturing costs rise as more vehicles get more sensors, infotainment and voice activation systems. Industry analysts believe these cheap cars will never return to the US market. The plan of automakers like Tesla is to be able to build electric cars for around $25,000 that could possibly become the lowest priced car in the United States. But, what do you think? Have we seen the end of affordable cars? Will the shrinking wealth of the middle class make cars unaffordable? Or, will electric cars become the new affordable cars? Please press the like button and leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you are notified of upcoming videos. Please share this video on social media. Thank you for watching.